one of the things we're instructed to do by our Creator is to tell others what He's done for us. And basically that involves sharing a recounting of experiences during the journey of our incarnation, our life experiences, our interactions with the Creator in creation. And so one of the things that I feel inspired to talk about is a gentleman, by the name of Professor Ness. Professor Ness was an electronics theory professor in advanced electronics training in the Navy. And he taught me and my classmates at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center. He claimed to be, one of the co-inventors or inventors of a certain kind of electron tube, which used to be a device they used predominantly in the way of transistors and not just like what is in common use today and as forms of light bulbs and whatnot. But what I'm getting at is this was a man who'd spent his entire life studying electricity. Okay, and Professor Ness, was quite an individual actually. He had one of those monotone drones and voices that just was a phenomenal sleep aid. Almost weapons grade voice as far as being able to put people into a sound sleep. And you don't want to insult the person. If I had such a power of voice, I'd actually be pretty glad, and I would sell it as a sleep aid personally. I think he should have. I wish his lectures had been recorded because it could end drug dependency for so many millions that have trouble getting good rest. But at any rate, that all aside, his voice, his power to put people to sleep aside, the man was highly intelligent and quite a genius. And frankly, I think that part of the reason why he had such a monotone drone was that, he felt like somehow, shape, or form, and his life of teaching recruits was, even beneath him. Nobody who teaches should ever have that attitude, by the way. Frankly, if you really believe in what you're teaching as fundamental truth and stuff, you do a great service to the world and presently and in the generations to come to pass on your knowledge. So it should never get boring for you, and it should never in any way, shape, or form cause you to regret your own personal existence at the time, and just so doing it's a great service to humanity. But regardless, I believe that the professor would much rather continue to spend time innovating and studying the depths and wonders of his chosen field, which was expertise in electricity and not just devices, but the fundamentals of what electricity actually is. And to quote, to make a long story short, to quote Professor Ness after he explained the difference between positive and negative isotopes and magnetic force and chemicals used with different types of positive and negative isotopes to basically bring about a differential between the atomic structure in conductors, force significant to cause loose electrons in the conductive isotopes to move in what's called the flow of current. From negative to positive, namely because the positive protons in the nucleus of atomic structure, have a stronger, bond in and of itself, a stronger potential energy in and of itself than the rapidly moving, loose, electrons in the isotopes that were already, basically bond together molecules through covalent bonding, and explaining, what electricity is, or at least what is observable about electricity from Professor Ness. He was, and the reason I remember people like Professor Ness was because I would cherish the moments when my teachers in public education would actually have a moment of just honest expression that was outside of the textbooks, that was outside of that was just their own personal, observations and experiences, their own life experiences, in which they would say things like, I can remember a physics professor, saying one day that, after years of being, indoctrinated with the theory of evolution, here was, a highly intelligent, physics professor telling us, I know everybody's, teaching you, about the theory of evolution, as being, factual and the only, plausible explanation for our existence. I know that's what you're basically all, thinking, but I give at least as much credence to, the theory of creationism, but then proceeded again never to speak about it and or teach on it, but just that one sentence, was enough to have those moments that you never forget, a moment of lucid thought, a moment, of introspective personal thought and interjected into the indoctrination, of our programming in our public education systems. Anyway, and it was with that moment of lucid, clear thought that the professor, being further queried about, the differences of the isotopes and the potentials of the isotopes and just what is electricity and just what is magnetism and just what is the factors involved in the unstable isotopes in chemicals and so on and so forth, and he said, no matter how you slice it or dice it, no matter who you ask, no matter what expert in the world, they can tell you what we can observe, but when it comes right down to defining the fundamentals of looking into the depths of each and every one of these topics, basically, and he said, quote unquote, it's pure fucking magic. Now, Professor Ness, obviously, was not a believer in God, or he would have said God, because that's what it is. The scriptures tell us God is in all, through all, and above all. In other words, no matter what topic you pick, no matter what energy, whether it's light energy, whether it's electrical energy, whether it's chemical energy, whether it's mechanical energy, no matter what topic you pick, and no matter what single, solitary, observable item in the entire universe that you pick and single out, if you look at it macroscopically and microscopically, you get to a point where you're looking at God. And by that I mean, when you look at any visible matter, any object whatsoever that you can possibly see, it is comprised of things that you cannot see. Just like the scriptures say, that all things visible, are made up of things that are not visible. Now, and by that I mean, even microscopically, you get to a point where they, said the atom was the smallest building block of matter and mass, but then they found atoms made up of, protons, neutrons, electrons, and each and every one of those are made up of another series of triads, and eons, gluons, and some start to even then theorize that if we had microscopes, that were even more powerful, that we could see even those were made up of particulates. And they start talking then about where they get into such small things that they've never been able to see microscopically, and they start to theorize, antimatter and dark energy, that basically the visible universe is basically made up of, scientifically speaking, of what these are people that do not believe in God, are saying is that visible matter is made up of energy. That even light has these particulates, photons, that some say, some theorize travels at a constant speed. And then they start to caveat that, well, within a constant speed within a vacuum. And then they start to caveat that further, and then say, provided, there is not another aspect of light interfering, or energy interfering. In other words, light can be bent, light can be manipulated, light can be, sped up, it can be slowed down. And scientifically, this has all been proven. Now, all these people are thinking, well, no, it can't. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, you're not up to the latest on scientific advancements if you think that. So light does not travel at a constant speed, A, which means that we can't really truly determine, just how far the galaxies are away and just when they were created and so on and so forth. And B, because light does not travel at a constant speed, and because it can be manipulated, bent, curved, and reflected and change directions, and because it's made up of particulates, photons that have a certain amount of mass, however minuscule, however small, however microscopic, that there are other energies and forces that can manipulate light waves, light beams, lasers, etc., as all those things demonstrate that light in fact can be sped up, slowed down, concentrated, etc., etc. My point is that when you study all matter and when you study all energy, it all gets to a point, microscopically speaking, where what is causing movement, what is causing the exchange of energy, what is causing what we observe, what is causing the ability to even perceive matter and mass, is a constantly present in all things commonality power, a force, an unseen, invisible energy that has all things in motion. Or you start talking about absolute zero, the absence of motion, basically. The ability to freeze time and space. It's a theory because it's never been done. It's only a theory. The ability to freeze those electrons, that are rapidly moving and constantly exchanging their own amount, certain amount, minuscule amount of energy between one another in covalent bonding, or loose ions, flying off because they're so rapidly moving. Never mind, explaining what set it all in motion in the first place. I'm just saying, Professor Ness, when he said quote-unquote pure fucking magic, was being honest. Somebody finally in the atheistic world, man, of the intellectual giants, being honest. Honest enough to admit that they don't know. But because they don't know what they're observing and unwilling to call it what it is, they theorize and create imaginary terms to describe what those of us who do know what it is. We do know. We don't think we know. We know because we communicate with the Creator, the eternal Creator of the universe, by His grace, that what you are observing, when you get to a point beyond what can be perceived visibly, even microscopically, that caused the vibrations, that caused the rotations, that caused the motion, not just caused it to begin and is observably slowing down throughout the entire universe, but what keeps creation existing, what despite the fact that, you know, all things visible as it's all observably by scientific law is breaking down, slowing down, reaching a state of equilibrium. By observable scientific fact, God tells us the things that are visible are passing away. Well, science verifies this. In fact, I thought about listing all the fields of sciences that actually confirm what the Holy Bible states, and by God's grace, I suppose if nobody else is willing to do it, I will. You know, people need to realize there is no science supporting atheism. There is no scientific evidence supporting atheism. It is ludicrous to believe in the non-existence of the Creator. They also need to realize there is no scientific evidence whatsoever for macroscopic evolution. There isn't. Not in the fossil record. Not anywhere in the entire universe. In fact, one of the most solid aspects about observable creation that goes against evolution is the fact that there are no two blades of grass exactly alike. There are no two people exactly alike. There are no two dogs exactly alike. There are no two cats exactly. There is nothing. You cannot find one thing, not even a single-celled amoeba, that is exactly like the next amoeba. Not even a virus that is exactly in all respects its neighboring virus. Every single thing you find in the entire universe is unique. People say, what about clones? I'm like, the moment you bring a so-called clone into existence, there is light energy. There are environmental, chemicals and bacteria and toxins, and if that thing moves or if it lives or bumps into anything. In other words, as it exists in time and space in God, the moment you bring a so-called clone into existence, it differs from the original DNA specimen. It is not exact. I know that they say that's the definition of a clone, but it is not. The instant it manifests in time and space exactly like the specimen from which it was taken. In fact, there is nothing in all the universe that is exactly 100%, not even identical twins, alike. They are unique. Think about that, people. Think about how that disproves evolution. Cellular mitosis, in theory, is supposed to create, or explain asexual reproduction of single-celled entities. Now, if it was just pure natural responses and natural inclinations that brought life from non-life, again, everything they think, I don't even like to talk about it because it's pure insanity. But if that was the explanation, there would be some things in the universe that were identical. I believe that one of the rational explanations why no two things are exactly alike in the universe, in time and space, in God Almighty, is that He made all things unique for the express purpose of us to come to an understanding that we are interdependent. That every time we're for the death, the annihilation, the destruction of some unique entity, some especially person, where people are concerned, that we are getting rid of something that cannot be replaced, that does never again identical, in all aspects and in all respects to that has been done away with. That we have lost a unique aspect, basically, of an expression of the Creator in so doing. If that isn't an argument for intelligent design, I don't know what is.